I tried to stay away from this, but you mentioned California. That brings up a gentleman named Ward Conley, who's going around across the. He had spoken. He had a debate here. I think it was last year about the elimination of various affirmative action programs. Can you kind of comment on where's the position of the National Black Chamber of Commerce as it relates to Ward Conley?
Just stupid Ward Conley. I call him something else, but I'm not going to say it here. Yeah, here's the case of a guy, grew up in Jim Crow, Texas, moves out to California, marries him, a white woman, and tells his children to classify themselves as being white. Takes 5 years, 6 years to get a bachelor's degree from a state school in California, and makes a living from business contracts that he runs through his wife's name as a woman business from the state of California. This guy's made millions of dollars under the women business program in California, and then jumps up and says he wants to do away with all these programs. He's getting paid to do this. He's nothing but a for-hire stooge. And I have an open offer to debate him any place, any time. Or fight him. Either way. You know? Choose your weapon, Ward. You know? And I've been to San Francisco. I've been to Sacramento, and I've told my people, whip his butt. Whip him. Make him so intimidated that he won't even go to a grocery store. You know, that's what you need to do. Nobody in D.C. can get away with that. You let Ward Conley try to get away with that in Chicago. You know? So that's what people in California too easy. I grew up there, man. I had to leave.
When the name minority was used, we've just done a statistical analysis of the Census Bureau information and found out statistically that the African American earns the least of any other minority group by a large measure. The question is, how could that be when the laws were passed to include us, and yet we wind up last?
Yeah, and that's our fault. And you do an analysis, and we don't own enough of our own businesses or do business with each other. For one thing about Hispanics and Asians, you get 15 Asians to move into a town, they're going to all do business with each other. First thing they're going to do is open up their Chinese restaurant and do business there. And then they're going to put somebody to college to be a Chinese lawyer and somebody to represent them medically. So you go to Texas into a Hispanic community and you see all this money circulating. You know, all that money circulating. And you go to Miami and you see the billboards, and here are the lawyers, you know, a billboard of 25 Hispanic lawyers. Take your pick, get the telephone numbers. And they're going to use them. We don't think like that. And that is a culture change we need to have. Now, when I had some video stores, I had competition across the street from me, a white-owned video store. His business was mainly black. My business is mainly white. Because I had the better deal. And the blacks didn't want the better deal. They wanted to do business with the white guy. They didn't want to make me rich. Right. You know? So that's our problem.
Okay.
And you're right. And what we have to do, and what your city council people and others have to do, is when they get these minority reports, break that down. Because what you see in Oklahoma, what we saw, was blacks were doing less than 0.5%. Hispanics are doing 4%. Native Americans are doing 25%. Right. That's still discrimination.
Right. Well, just to follow up on that, a friend of mine yesterday said that, well, maybe we're ready to burn the Willie Lynch syndrome, the story of Willie Lynch, meaning there, and I guess this is a solicitation of an opinion. When you were saying that it's our fault, does it really mean that it was our fault or the consequences that are different being an African American that the other so-called disadvantaged groups have? And the reason that I'm cautious about saying that it's our fault is that it could easily perpetrate the illusion that the playing field was the same for each of those disadvantaged groups. And so therefore we were just in a race and lost. And I don't accept that as a premise. I believe that we can document other forces and conditions that killed a lot of people who went on the battlefield or tried to be entrepreneurs.
We can overcome that with courage. If what's fair is fair and what's right is right. But Italians in San Francisco could not get bank loans. They couldn't get capital access. So they all got together and put up some money and started the Bank of America. The legacy of Bank of America, it was created to give Italians loans. And if you want to see a site, you go to L.A. and see all these Chinese banks and Korean banks. Some of them recruited from China and Korea. They're there to capital access for Chinese and Korean businesses. Why can't we think like that? You know, and I'll go to a quote that one of my guys in Oakland said. It was so beautiful. They were having some issues in Oakland. And he says, I'm looking at a city council that is predominantly black. I got a black mayor. I got a black chief of police. I got a black chief of the fire department. I got a black superintendent of schools. If something's wrong in this city, somebody black did it or let it happen. Okay?
Last question, I guess. You talk about the examples of these other ethnic groups. Do you have partnerships or working relationships with the national Black Hispanic, or I'm sorry, national Hispanic or Chinese groups that are ways you can learn how they've been successful and take some of that yourself? Very
close, and I wouldn't say they've been more successful than us. I think we, the Advantage of the National Black Chamber of Commerce, we can move at an instant, whereas the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has to go through their structure, and they've got inner circles of Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans that are very good business people, Mexican Americans. So they have to go through their board, and it may take them 6 weeks to get on an issue, where we can do it in 6 hours. I just play a one-strike ball game. I make no mistakes, my board's happy. If I make a strike, then the leash goes on me. But I think talking about that Congressman Don Young in Alaska, it was through our memorandum of understanding with the Alaska Native Corporations. We went to Anchorage last year, which that's a trip, man, Alaska. We went to Alaska last year and signed an MOU with the Alaska Native Corporations. They called their congressman, and he acted in our favor. Now, I couldn't get anybody in the Congressional Black Caucus to do it, but I got it done. And it's funny, we're going to give an award to this congressman in a couple of months for what he did. He saved us from the stimulus bill. And I want to see Charlie Rangel and John Conyers and all of them look at this. This is our guy. Good old boy from Anchorage. Moose hunter. He's got moose heads all in his office, man. Okay. Thank you.
Today at the City Club, we have been listening to a special program featuring Harry Alford, President and CEO of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Mr. Alford, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This program is now adjourned.